YouTube, what's good with y'all, man? It's your boy Justice coming at y'all with another YouTube read, another collective energy read. I hope this finds you guys at a clarifying time of your day. Remember to use discernment when necessary. This is an intuitive, practice of, understanding what's for you and what's not meant for you on a discernment level. So remember to take what applies to you and leave the rest behind. Let's go and get started. Angels, I appreciate your likes, comments, shares, and subscribes. Angels of the highest of white light, please bestow upon me clear and concise channel messages that accommodate with the general one that I have for my collective. So the general message is that, whoever I'm tapping into, it's getting harder and harder for people to register your energy in a logical format or in a logical way, or to kind of depict you in a logical way. There's something about, hold on. I literally had to stop the video. I had literally forgot the general message. Like, it's crazy. But when you peek beyond the firmament, so there's something about it's getting harder for people or situations, circumstances, or even a lot of you guys deal with the occult, right? In terms of systematic targeting and things like that. A lot of you guys already understand on a generalization. But it's something about when you peek beyond the firmament. And so what I'm really saying with that, a lot of you guys peek beyond a guideline of what you're known to be in. And so with a lack of better words, there's something about when people can't really put that, you know what I mean, that identification on you in a certain way that fits in a fixed way. So when I'm saying that, a lot of you guys are very outside the norm and very different and unique in a very generalized, in a very, what do you call that? So what I'm saying is a lot of you guys are very different in the way that maybe the system or society hasn't seen before or hasn't seen in this culture in terms of what it's supposed to be. A lot of especially for my American people, I can only speak for America, right? There's this generalization of this capitalistic means to where you're supposed to be ambitionally driven in terms of direction. And so a lot of you guys may not occupy those kind of fundamental guidelines, and is exactly what I'm kind of saying. And there's something about the importance behind that, and something about the importance on breaking that, pattern in terms of what systematically has been at play in this day and age. A lot of you guys understand that, certain vibrations of you hasn't been accepted. There's almost like you peak to this vibration and then you get shot down, and you get resistance. And so there's like a connotation to it not being accepted, right? And so what that really means is, in terms of a system that governs a control off of what it can hold over, a lot of you guys peak beyond that on a vibrational level and kind of can invalidate something that is maybe conveyed or indoctrinated amongst a lot of people. And so when you have people that can invalidate that, it breaks a norm. And when I say that, it can break a new pathway. And so sometimes that can go against a systematic propaganda that is set before people that may benefit a higher agenda, or when I say a higher agenda, a higher percentile, the higher percentile of people. So maybe a small percentage of people. And that's kind of what's been governing over the world for centuries now, right? In terms of the higher agendas that have been controlling the facets of what and how we move in this world. And so when you're breaking that systematic format, a lot of things can be threatened by you, and it's not really socially or emotionally. And of course, we all have experienced this if you're aligned with this message. But it's really more so on a systematic level, as if this is not supposed to be, right? And a lot of you guys know what I'm saying about, this is not supposed to be, or you're not, you feel like you're not supposed to be in that vibration, and it may feel off, and then there's a high temptation to go back down, right? And we're speaking energetically, of course, but this can transcend to physical, emotional means, or whatever, financial means. And it's something about systematically why it's you, right? And a lot of you guys understand that last part, why it's you. And so when you get to this point and you're kind of rebellious, or it almost seems rebellious to keep going the way you're going, it almost feels rebellious because it's going against a norm. And so when you're going against a norm, there's something about a risk that you're taking. But through that risk, you're opening up the possibilities of somebody that's perceiving you walking in that risk. And so it kind of gets difficult for people to digest what it is that you're doing or where you're at or what that corresponds to. People may see you doing this but not understand why you're doing this, or people may watch you or on a logical level see your actions and not understand what it measures up to. And so that's the point, though. And so that's where we get to on the level of understanding of what I'm trying to put through this video. And that understanding is the fact that a lot of things are not going to be so logical going forward in this world. A lot of things are going to break that sense of logic, because that sense of logic has come from a relative point of indoctrination. And so when we're at this point of where all these rabbit holes come up. I mean, I know in America, a lot of you guys are seeing this Epstein thing. A lot of you guys are seeing this, Sean P. Diddy thing. You know what I mean? A lot of you guys are seeing these people get wound up. You're seeing people die. You're seeing people whatever. But this is a systematic catching that always plays in line with these type of systems that are always meant to happen because of what is in order in this system. And so what we're talking about in a generalization is these little components that we kind of occupy that measure up to a bigger picture. So you holding your ground, right? So let's say the viewer that I'm speaking to, you holding your position is also a light you're holding for somebody else like me in my position, because that is also what domino effects back in because of that difference that you're setting to peak beyond that firmament. And when I say a firmament, the Bible kind of speaks about this firmament that, a lot of people connotate it to the earth being a sphere, right? In terms of the Bible's depiction of what that firmament really represented, but it was speaking about a spiritual firmament. And so what's above and below that firmament, and they depicted it as water. And I want to kind of go into that in terms of the meaning behind that in regards to what that creation bubble of water really reflects. And so as above, so below, you guys understand it, but this may change your perception of certain things. And so when you peek beyond that firmament, what do you find? You usually find connection or open doors to a lot other beings or a lot of other different worlds, so to speak. But what that really is what you're not supposed to be peeking into. And the Bible also speaks about this because of this forbidden knowledge that can open doors to what you don't want or don't know that can be behind that door. And so a lot of you guys are my, in terms of occult kind of, cult busters, shout out Draco. A lot of y'all that are subscribed to me. I remember when I started this channel, a lot of y'all were subscribed to Draco, and I think that's so funny. But in terms of that kind of firmament that can hold us into a certain position, there's something about you opening those doors to peek out of it, right? Because it's gotten to a point in society that things are being boxed in because of a systematic crumbling that is spiritually happening. What we're experiencing in this world is an upheaval that is going on in the spirit realm first. And that's why I wanted to bring the firmament into discussion, because the firmament represents what was holding it all in keep. And so these gatekeepers, or whatever that percentile that I was speaking of, that higher percentile, of people and what they've learned to understand and correspond to controlling these firmaments, right? You're not supposed to peek outside of it through these vibrational differences that you naturally embody. And when I say vibrational differences, your ability to transcend something through your own abilities, your ability to do something yourself, your ability to create something, your ability to shift yourself without needing some type of occupancy or blood oath or something of that nature. And it's not something like, against those things in a generalization, right? It's something about the understanding of what your pure energy attracts from those type of people, because that's what's the key to understanding how they can break out of their own box. A lot of you guys understand the methods of what is controlled in these systems and how it's controlled. And a lot of you guys occupy something that is an antidote to these very systems, whether it's through your blood, whether that's through your abilities, whether that's through your protections, through your ancestral protections. That is what is sought after by a system that kind of reflects or kind of is alerted, so to speak, when you peek beyond that firmament. And there's a reason behind that, because sometimes it may feel oppressive to us. Sometimes it may feel cruel to us, but a lot of times we're coming across people in different circumstances and different perspectives that feel the need to do certain things because of this systematic indoctrination that I speak of, right? In terms of a certain perspective that this has to be this way and this has to be this way because this is all I've seen before. And so we're breaking those boxes by peeking beyond a firmament in a way that people may not be able to explain or connotate. And so when that happens, that is your cloak, right? And I want to go into that. for a reason. A lot of times we're alienated or feel to be alienated by environments or things that kind of chew us up and spit us out. But what really happens on those kind of levels is a kind of acceptance of your own ground to create from, or your own stemming or your own abilities to emanate through. Sometimes God has to isolate you or seclude you from certain things that you cannot see or you cannot see in terms of danger. We all know that, right? And so with this path, it's something about the perception shift and along that line of understanding why you peak beyond the firmament, understanding why you stick out, like I say, like a sore thumb, because you're meant to implicate those kind of foundations for another person that's watching you, for another person that's sensing you, maybe even judging you, maybe even watching you to judge, right? But those are the differences in terms of what you're allocating in the life of somebody that may have not seen those differences before. And so this is why I brought this theme of like people may not be able to connotate you logically, right? In terms of like a full sense of understanding or knowing. And that can create a sense of fear, intimidation, and a threat, right? To somebody's sense of wanting to understand. And so those are also validated things in regards to, I want to kind of reaffirm that to other people in terms of you guys, a lot of you guys are my healers. A lot of you guys hold ground for healing through your own pursuits of healing. And that's a reaffirmation to somebody that may need to hear that. Your path, a lot of you guys are my generational, what we call curse breakers, but we want to call that pattern breakers. A lot of you guys are opening that up by peeking beyond the firmament of what was known to be, whether that's in your family, whether that was expectations, morals, values, that you're superseding and transcending in a different way for other people to not necessarily follow, but to create themselves, right? And so that's where the point of realization comes for people that come across your energy, and they have that choice point. So a lot of people come across your guys' energy, and I'm just channeling, like, and they may be dumbfounded by what they sense or see. And I have a video kind of like that coming up too, but it's the point of that is to reflect that, you know, the alien kind of connotation that you may come off to as people. Is to show them, hey, there's a different world out here. There's a more open portal to a different world out here. And so you want to offer that to people. You want to offer that back to people when you're reflecting your frequency. It may not be, a lot of you guys have dealt with, I'm channeling it, dealt with shame, confidence, you know, being kind of objectified in regards to this energy that you embody, and a lot of people may not understand it. And so you guys may have dealt with certain emotional turbulences or turbulences in your path because of these misunderstandings. But there's a point for that. It's like a resistance to your conviction, right? It's a resistance to what you're moving through. And a lot of you guys have to move through points that maybe your people couldn't. Maybe somebody before you couldn't. Maybe something was put onto you. Maybe you put yourself in certain situations. A lot of times we should, like, I can speak for myself in this situation or from my own experiences. You put yourself in certain jurisdictions for learning or to step out of your own box, or, you know, it may not look like that in a learning way. It may look like ugliness. It may look like trauma. It may look like falling on your own ass. But really, it's you paving a different path, and really you standing on a different foundation that may not be so cultivated or integrated fully yet. And it's something about the space that you create for yourself, and that's a reaffirmation back to people. When you're holding that space or holding that torch, even if you're disliked by many, a lot of you guys have dealt with that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of you guys, I see your comments. You've dealt with being, you know, targeted for certain reasons, or you feel targeted. But really, it's about a perceptual shift in terms of that space that you're holding for the misunderstandings of other people. And it's not really on a pedestal or anything like that. And I don't want to come from that place, right? We want to come from a place where understanding, and you're kind of maybe the bridge for somebody understanding something different about themselves, right? Or understanding something different about you, or understanding something different about this life through your differences and your choices that you make. A lot of you guys are very unique. A lot of you guys are very trailblazer-like. And you get some type of conviction or confidence or an adrenaline rush for walking that different path, right? Because you're meant to, right? And so a lot of you guys are supposed to be affirmed through this message that, you know, a lot of times it's not supposed to be logically depicted of you, right? What you're doing or how you're doing it. A lot of times we don't understand it ourselves. I talk to a lot of beings like myself, or maybe that try to be in a similar trajectory that I would like to be kind of calling myself to walk, right? And I find that a lot of times we don't know what we're doing ourselves. It's just through us, right? And you're just being a vessel that has this torch within you because you're a light bearer for other people. And that's kind of what I'm kind of trying to reflect in this message, and the importance behind that space to hold for other people's understandings. So a lot of you guys are artists. I want to speak to artists, and artists have this understanding that, I may be speaking to insecurities behind certain artists, you know what I mean? In terms of what you put out. You don't have to be an artist. You could be some type of creator, entrepreneur. But sometimes you put out something or an idea that you're cultivating, and you're kind of thinking about how it's taken to, and you're thinking about how people take to it. And it's not always about that, because the point is for people to take to it, and the point is for people to have their own perspective. The point is for people to have their own digestible opinion, because that's valid on their end. It's the space that you hold and the light that you hold that may inspire somebody in a good or bad way, right? And that good or bad can be subjectively different from you to another person watching you, right? In terms of what transpires from there, because it's a choice point for somebody else, which is why it's a space to hold. But these are the type of things that come up when people don't really know how to put their finger on you. But that's the perfect thing, right? And so we're at 15 minutes, and I think I'm about to end off soon, but I want to get some kind of remaining messages. But a lot of you guys are feeling to be undigestible or unaccessible at this time I'm channeling. And so a lot of you guys need your space. I'm channeling. A lot of you guys understand. A lot of you guys are introverts. A lot of you guys are extroverts. You know what I mean? But for the introverts specifically, it's something about understanding that space that you're holding for yourself is very valid. But understanding the integration and the openness that, the Most High, whether it's now or later, with those pieces of yourself, or whether it's just your energy, your vibration, that is to be shared with other people through some means or some way. And so the part about these resistances, what I have found, is to open you up to different experiences, or to open you up to higher experiences through going through these things. A lot of you guys are my alchemists. A lot of you guys transmute through energy. A lot of you guys have had to go through tough energies. You know what I mean? That may have not, I'm channeling, that may have not been presided before you, in terms of somebody like leading it for you. And it's not meant to be like that. It's meant for you to walk it differently for somebody else, right? And just think about it for, that person that you're writing that poem for, writing that song for, you're writing that story for, that book. A lot of you guys are my book writers. Shout out to you guys. Reaffirmation to what you're creating in terms of, let's say, on a baseline spiritual level in this reality, and how that perception can widen when you kind of reflect on how you can impact people through your actions and decisions, when you know how people are viewing you, when you know how people kind of take to you. It's an empathy thing that you can use as a mirror to get to your highest acceleration. You can use that same energy to kind of like play with it a little bit, right? Especially for my artists and my creatives. You can kind of play with that theme when you're looked at, or maybe have been alienated in a certain way, right? When I say alienated, you're very unique, you stand out, and you may have found more closure, safety going on your own way, right? That's all that I'm really meaning, not to go into the depths. A lot of people got different situations. But really, really what that's really transpiring is the open creative expression, for it to be open for you to fully express through, like, confidently, in terms of on a cohesive level, back to people that either misunderstand you or judge you. It's that space that you hold that you may not recognize the impact of until later on. And so I have that same realization on YouTube, in terms of I don't always recognize these things, but somebody's listening, right? You never know who's listening, and that's a message for somebody. You never know who's watching you. You never know how you're affecting somebody, right? And it's just a reminder to be conscious and be more intentional on how you move with that energy going forward, because it can be very powerful in whatever way you connotate it, in regards to how you come back with this frequency when you're being connotated in such a way, right? It's very easy. It's an easy cloak for you to move the way the Most High needs you to move. And that's kind of where that unaccessibility comes from. Whether that's you in people's face and they feel like they can't get close to you, or they can't break it out of you, or can't get close enough to what you're thinking, or things like that. A lot of you guys seclude those privacies to yourselves in terms of what you're doing on an energetic level, right? And what you're doing is usually holding space for somebody else through your torch that you're embodying. And so the importance of that is to be looked at or seen as an out of the box, or you stick out like a sore thumb, or people can't put their finger on you logically. People can't really, they may talk about you and they may not be able to come to the same conclusion. But that's perfect, because that's the whole point, to open up the box and the thoughts and the minds of those that either seek you or perceive you or have experienced you. And that's my last message. If you need a person with me, hit up Shamika Son with a C and Shamika@gmail.com. I've got 3 partnerships for 20% off with Otter Spirit, Rose Forever New York, and Amazon Web Services. If you're interested in any of those featured platforms, I'll have all the links in the description below for you to check them out and look into them. But besides that, it's your boy Justice. I'm sending my love and ashe. Peace out, y'all.